Chris Fowler, Kirk Herbstreit join us now. And, men, this story can now be told, right? You guys heard it. Holly asked him about it. We've all heard Ryan Day say the story can only be told if we win tonight. Herbie, I'll let you start as a guy grew up there and wore the uniform. What's the story of this team?
Oh, don't start with me, man. I'm a little emotional. I'm just fired up for these guys. When I call these games, I'm incredibly objective, and I love all these Ohio State teams, but this team, because of what they went through to get to this point, you're just happy,
Yeah,
just
man.
happy for them.
We're all from somewhere, all right? Zero apologies for any of the emotion. I think it's all understandable. I'll ask Chris a question. Let you get yourself together.
It's seventh national title, seventh for Ohio State, but none of them have been won like this, Scott, as you said, right? So they win the first year of the 14 bracket, and they had to beat Alabama in New Orleans to do it, to beat Oregon. Now you come into this year, and off that low, to win a championship this way, to survive 4 rounds against 4 really high-quality teams. Yeah, they're expected to win, but you got to go out and handle business. And they played from the front most of the time. But to execute collectively and to still be standing, that's really the story. I mean, I don't know if they were written off. I mean, they were ripped apart by a lot of their own people in Columbus.
They went to hell and back. I mean, we can try to make this sound soft, but my thing is I talk to these players, I talk to these coaches. I know what they faced after that Michigan game. I know the pain, and I know that a lot of people thought, the hell with this guy. Who else can be the guy? And I know what that did. That's a real life thing, and to have to put that away and not be, like, who are you to question? Like, he just handled it, took the high road, didn't say anything, went out, got his team ready to play 4 games, and they won it. And I think that's why I'm emotional, is what these guys faced. And if you notice, they just kept talking about each other. They didn't talk about, anything else. It was each other. It was the coaches. It was because it was those guys in that locker room that believed that they could make this run. And I think that's what, 20 years from now, that's what I'll remember, is how they kept it together just by themselves and had to fight out of that dark hole that they were in. And it's pretty special to think. It's a great example for all of us to learn about adversity. And we want to quit. We want to give up. It's a great example, not just for football, but in life, about getting through the tough times. And the good times are coming ahead. And that's what this is.
I totally agree. And you feel so fortunate in this job that we have to do what we do anytime. But to be here on the sideline watching as that conversion happens and Smith catches the ball, throw the ball to 4, by the way, right? And you see JTT and Sawyer and the hugs and the real love, right? And I'm glad Reese asked about it, because they lean into faith. And the faith not just in God, but in one another. And I think you saw that reflected in this particular journey as they sing. I don't know if I'm supposed to lay out here, Herbie, or not, but maybe I will for just a moment.
Yeah. I know in Columbus they love this.
Might not have thought that they would be singing that song in this city tonight when they lost to Michigan, but here they are. Chris, if I could rewind the tape back to that emphatic opening drive, I think a lot of folks wondered, could Notre Dame stand toe-to-toe with this team? They showed us plenty to get here, but they suffered a number of injuries along the way, and were they built to stand up to Ohio State? And that first drive said, hey, we're here to fight. But the answer from Ohio State with 3 consecutive touchdown drives in the first half was just remarkable. As you're calling it, what were you thinking throughout the first half?
Well, I've never seen an opening drive like that in any game. Forget a championship game. 9:45 off the clock against a tough defense. Riley Leonard literally emptying the bucket at his guts. Just landing on the ball. He looked like he could barely stand up at the end of the drive. You thought, okay, that's a good opening statement. Right. But then Ohio State had every answer, and Notre Dame simply could not get off the field, could not get a third down stop. And that was, in their end, the demise as the lead built that was a little bit too big to make up for. Now, they battled back. I gave them no chance down 24 of even being in the game at the end. And they found a way to do that, and it took the call that, as Howard said post-game, took large Buckeyes from Chip Kelly to make that heave downfield. And Smith justified the faith, and so did Howard. But, Notre Dame, Scott, to just focus them for a second, it is Ohio State's night. It's a massive year for Notre Dame. They had never won a playoff game until this 3-game run. They had lost 9 consecutive New Year's Six bowls, not counting the embarrassment in this championship game against Alabama. They erased all that. They silenced some doubters. They went to SEC country, and they beat up the bullies from Georgia. I know for Notre Dame people that meant a lot. They came up short tonight. Marcus Freeman will be disappointed that his team, in his words, didn't play their best early enough to hang with them and really give themselves a great chance to win. But there's no shame for me in the Irish for what they did this season. Oh. Lost one game 4.5 months ago by 2 points. It was an embarrassing loss. They responded brilliantly. They had plenty of adversity, a ton of injuries. So resolve and resilience on both sides tonight. Ohio State the better team and the deserving winner, but I do want to salute Notre Dame.
No, they were, Scotty, as you know, they're down 31-7 against this juggernaut, and not looking like they're going to slow down anytime soon. And they're going to be able to get a stop. Oh wow, they got a stop, which was like, okay, that's a starting point. Now you got to go score, and they did. And then they got the 2-pointer, and they just wouldn't go away. So that's culture. That's Marcus Freeman in just his 3rd year, what he's creating. I think he's scratching the surface of where this thing's going to go. So tough night. There'll be a lot of things. We could have done this or could have done that. But as far as what they're building in South Bend, well, I'm excited to see where this thing goes with him as the head coach.
Well, and in the end, it did take some Buckeyes to throw it to 4, but what a play he makes. And they're going to lose, Herbie, a lot of this talent. The guys that stuck around that didn't have to. I think that's really the story of NIL and all the rest of this, is that you can come up with the dough that's required to keep guys that could go play on Sundays but wanted to leave a mark in Columbus. I want to give you the final word here about this team and what those guys that didn't have to stick around but did ultimately leave behind in Columbus.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I think there was a narrative most of the year saying, well, they spent $20 million. They should win a championship. And if you really look close to it, a lot of the, you bring in Caleb Downs, you bring in Will Howard and Seth McLaughlin, but a lot of it had to do with the players that they really had on the roster, especially on defense. I mean, 9 of those starters have been around for 3 or 4 years. We've been calling their games forever. And they had a lot of great times, but I had a lot of tough moments. And I don't think this gets done, as much as we're talking about Ryan Day, without those seniors and without all that they'd been through and the buy-in that they put together along with the coaches, this doesn't happen. So I think it's very fitting that they win this, but I think your point is outstanding to remember guys like Cody Simon and Jack Sawyer and JTT. It just goes Lathan Ransom. He keeps going on down the list of guys that they were determined to make this happen despite the pitfalls that they faced. And at the end of the day, they raised that trophy.
Night belongs also, Scotty, to the Big Ten. Back-to-back national championships. That hadn't happened in consecutive seasons in like 80 years.
Wow,
80 years.
80.
So it's a power shift. We'll see if they can keep it going. But to come to home of the SEC and make it back-to-back for the Big Ten is important to a lot of people in that conference, I know.
Yeah.
Well, man, you know how much I appreciate your work, but even more the chance to be here together, Herbie. Thanks for the invite. They flew me down here in a plane so I could be here to do this with y'all. Y'all be good until next time.
Here.
Thank you.
You're the man, buddy.